All right. So I don't know how much you guys keep up with American politics. And this show is not about politics as far as like, I mean, we talk about social issues, but we don't necessarily get into like party politics. But I got to know, do people in are people in Scotland aware of the political climate in the United States?
Hmm. Yeah.
So by the time this comes out, we will have either a new president or a president with a new term.
Yeah.
So who you think's gonna win, Biden or Trump?
Well, I hope.
Salute to the subscribers, those that live beyond the cipher. I'm your host, Illskillz. Welcome to the podcast that shows the humanity and the superhuman beyond the cipher. If you're new to the channel, please press the like and subscribe buttons. They cost you nothing. Today on episode 8, Ready and Rockin', we have a special guest all the way from Scotland, bgirl, choreographer, creative educator, Emma Reddy of the Flexible Flav crew. What up, Emma?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Now, you are the first of two things that we've ever had on our show. One, you are the first female to come on our show, and we appreciate that. Secondly, you are the first foreigner to come on our show, and we definitely
Okay.
appreciate that. Because, like I said, you're from Scotland, right? Edinburgh, correct?
Yeah. I grew up in Glasgow, but I live in Edinburgh.
Oh, okay, no doubt. Now, how does a person get into breaking in Scotland? Now, in America, if you're around my age, and I'm in my 40s, if you're around my age, you're probably a Beach Street baby, right? You saw Beach Street and you're like, oh. And now I have heard from, but I think these people are older than you, but it seems like the Europeans are flash dance babies. Is that the situation, or how did you get into breaking?
No, not my situation. Well, my first exposure to any kind of hip hop dance was in like 1984. There used to be a street performer in Glasgow city centre called Robbie the Robot. So he'd dress up in the white suit with the white expressionless mask on his face, and do his robotics and then freeze until someone put money in his hat. So whenever I went into town with my mum, I would always make her stop and watch this guy because I was mesmerized by him, but also terrified at the same time.
It
These
sounds like
masks are so scary.
it sounds like the Disney effect, right? Like kids love the Disney cartoons, but when they see the actual
Mm.
characters at Disneyland and they're like over 6 feet tall, they get freaked out.
Yeah, yeah, it was freaky. And my mum said I used to go home and practice, copy all his moves when I was at home. And she said that one day I came downstairs and said to her, "Well, I'm ready." And she said, "Ready for what?" And I said, "Ready to dance on the street." So that was that. And at the time, I was doing dance classes, but tap and ballet, modern and jazz. And my mum tried to find some hip hop classes for me, but couldn't find any. So that was the first glimpse. But then when I was a teenager, I started listening to Cypress Hill and James Brown and Snoop Dogg, and got into the music when I was about 15. And then when I was 17, I moved to Edinburgh to come to university, and heard about a breaking and popping class. So I went along to that, started going to that, and loved it from the first session. That was me.
Wow. So you actually come from the like the studio side of
Yeah,
breaking, right?
yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Hmm.
And when you discovered the like competitive or like the like the underground scene, was that way later?
No, um, at the time, so I started in '97. So at that time in Edinburgh, there were a lot of hip hop club nights going on. Um, So we've got some really amazing DJs in Scotland. We've got Richie Ruffton, who's a DMC champion like 4 times over.
Oh wow.
So he used to run a night, yeah. He used to run a night called Scratch, that we used to go to, and he would bring all the big name hip hop artists to perform there. So him, and there were other nights at different clubs put on by different DJs. So I think in my second year of second or third year of breaking, um, another class started at the university that I was at. So I started going to that, and there were a lot of other students there. And because we were at university, we had access to space to train. So we started training together in different student union halls, and going out to all these clubs together. So the music scene was there, the club scene was there, but there wasn't really a breaking scene at that point. So I think with the start of these two classes, which were taught by a guy called Alan Irvin and Wallace Sully, they kind of generated the next population of breakers in Edinburgh and different parts of Scotland, because they toured around teaching different places. So yeah, we kind of built the scene, this iteration of the scene, as we went along.
Oh, so wait, so you're part of the first generation scene of Scotland?
Second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was really big in the 80s. So there was a crew called Glasgow City Breakers and another one called LCC, who were based in Glasgow on the West Coast. And they were like rival crews, although
Okay.
they're all still friends to this day. But they used to have battles in a ballroom. It's called the Plaza. And lots of members of the public used to come and watch these battles.
Oh, wow.
But they were like little kids. So a lot of those guys are still around on the scene. So they're like the first generation, and the first bgirl in Scotland is called Nancy, or Tracky G, and she's from the East Coast, so Fife. So there was a generation, and then maybe I'm like second and a half or third generation, because there are other people who started breaking before me in Glasgow. So Shelto Mills, one other people, but yeah, there was a lull. There was no scene for a while, and then it resurged.
So would you say that the scene is vibrant now, or is it in an underground phase? Like, where are you guys now?
So we have a scene. We have people breaking in. So Edinburgh, Glasgow, Dundee, and Fife. Not sure if there's Aberdeen. This class is going on up there. So, but everyone knows everyone. And when we have events here, say the maximum capacity is like 200 people. And
Okay.
that's with all the active dancers. So not just breaking, but all other hip hop styles as well. All the kids that come and all their parents. So it's a small scene. And before COVID, there were probably 3 or 4 events a year, and that would be our maximum. So my friend Lottie and I used to run a community interest company, which is similar to a charity. And we would put on a big event called Jam Peace once a year. That was our big competition event. And we had another night called Coast to Coast. It was a Cypher night, and we would do exhibition battles. And then in Glasgow, they've got, so Chaz and Tesco and Mario were organising 2 events as well. So when they were all running at the same time, it was like 4 a year. Now, obviously, nothing's happening, but
No doubt.
all online stuff. So still a small scene, but there's lots of kids dancing. So I think, if they continue, the scene will grow with them.
No doubt. Like, and so you've been breaking for over 20 years now, and when you first started, who were some of your early influences?
So the first video that I bought, the VHS video, was a Battle of the Year '99.
You hear that, kids? VHS video.
Yeah.
That's where we come from.
I've still got the tapes, but not the player anymore.
There you go.
I really liked Suicidal Lifestyle from that video, and Gombe. They were my favourites on that video. And then the next video that I got was Storm Volume 1. So yeah, they're my 2 main early influences, which is interesting because, Storm and Gombe both do a lot of power moves, and I never really took up the power move side of things, much more into the footwork and flow and back rock kind of side. But yeah, that's who I was watching in the beginning.
Yeah, I remember Suicidal Lifestyles. That's I remember them from Battle of the Year '99 when they won Battle of the Year '99 and destroyed the Americans with an onslaught of power moves. But well, that's cool. And where are they from? They're not from.
First place and the winner is a Battle of the Year 1999 Suicidal Lifestyle.
Scotland, right?
Hungary.
Oh,
Hungary.
okay, yeah, Hungarians. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. No doubt. So with that being with suicidal lifestyle being your like an early influence, and then Storm as well, were you more into the power initially, or were you more into the footwork?
Well, that was, near the beginning of when I started breaking, so everything was just amazing, and I didn't know how
Yeah.
to do any of it. So I would just watch, be like, "What's happening? I don't know what's going on, but I like it. I want to know
Right.
how to do it." And my video player had a slow motion button on it, so I used to watch the section at the end of Storm's video where he did more footwork and the pretzel stuff. I would
Mm.
watch all that in slow motion and try and figure it out. And that feeling has stayed with me, and that's always an ambition of mine, that I want other breakers to watch my breaking and be like, "Oh, I like it, but I don't really know what you're doing. It's
Yeah.
kind of intricate, confusing moves." That's what I'm going for.
Ah, yes, yes, yes. Cool. And so like you're more of like the footwork techs, right? Where you're just like
Yeah.
the small little moves. I think like I used to see a lot of that like more on the East Coast here. Like the more intricate like styles where you just really got to pay attention to see what's really going on. You think you see one thing, but really it's another. Yeah, no doubt. That's dope.
Yeah.
Do you still compete, or is that chapter closed for you?
No, I still compete. Not as often as I used to. But I like small events.
There you go.
Uh,
That's funny that you say that because I'm the same way. Like I don't really I compete still, but it's funny because I had stopped breaking for a long time, and then I got back into it about 2 years ago, pretty heavy. And then this year was supposed to be like my tour. I was gonna go. I was like, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go there,
yeah.
and I went nowhere. And because of course the pandemic. But me, I'm the same way. The mid-size to small jams are more like what I like.
Yeah.
Less politics. Good music. I'm there. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
dope, dope, dope. So how do you feel about this generation of b-boys and b-girls and what it's evolved into?
I think. Oh, I don't know. I've not really thought about that too much. I think maybe people are becoming more all-rounders at the moment. So people are doing a bit of power, a bit of freezes, tricks, footwork, everything. I think it's less, "Oh, I like this side of things," or "I like that side of things." I think that maybe the style versus power isn't such a big debate anymore.
No doubt.
Yeah, I think it's more. I think that kind of changed from that side of things to big events or smaller events, underground or commercial. That I think that was the real hip hop, the community side or the fame side.
No
Not that you
doubt.
can't have both at the same time, but so yeah, I think there seems to be a lot of people in the new generation, even more than previous ones. I think it seems like it's growing. Definitely a lot more bgirls than when I first started,
No doubt.
which is great. Right.
But what I was gonna ask you is so in America, we had that where it was like the one power guy, one or two power guys, because you were talking about how now everybody's an all rounder. There was a time when you was like a bunch of style guys, and then you had your one power guy and your one trick guy who's gonna just go blow it up. Did you guys go through that same evolution?
Yeah.
No doubt.
The first crew I was in, or the second crew I was in, Random Aspects, we had a Power Move Pete, or Powerful Pete, as our power move guy.
Nice. And like I'm from Arizona, right? And it's credited with developing what we call the abstract style. Are you familiar with the abstract style?
Yeah.
Do you guys have guys over there that adopted that style as well, or did everybody just kind of stay traditional?
I don't think in Scotland so much, but there's a b-boy called P from Bad Taste Crew. So they're from Omagh, Northern Ireland, and now they all moved to Newcastle in England. So he was really interested in all that kind of abstract style. And there were other people in England doing it as well, but yeah, I didn't really catch on in Scotland so much.
No doubt. Okay. Now, Miss Emma, if you ever seen this show before, and anybody who's watching, we always go beyond the Cypher, right? Where we want to talk about, different issues in the scene that people deal with that are just basically real life, issues. So I want to ask you, do you feel that there is a gender bias in breaking?
I do, yes. I think it's we're heavily male dominated in the breaking scene, and when that happens, it's it becomes like the b-boys are the default. They're the go-to. They're the norm of the scene, and b-girls are a second thought. When I think a lot of hosts at events used to only say, when they're hyping up the crowd, cheer on the b-boys or reference the b-boys, and then it became b-boys. Oh, and b-girls, and b-girls. Now it's more like b-boys and b-girls. It's become more normal, but I've seen that trend. Or like introducing dancers for the battle that used to be, for example, b-boy Emma Reddy. Be like, oh, I'm not a b-boy. It's so normal for people to say b-boy, not to say b-girl.
Right.
I think that's changing. But yeah, I think b-girl battles. I really like b-girl battles. I enjoy them, and I think they're a great way to get rid of that bias and to put all the focus and the spotlight on b-girls without having to deal with any of that sexism. But I do think when a b-girl battle is part of an event that has a main battle, and the main battle, will be mixed, but the focus will be on the b-boys again. More attention, more effort is put into the main battle than the b-girl battle. So it sometimes feels like a pity gesture. Oh, here you go, you can have that. Or to get more women in the event.
Right, more like a marketing strategy than something that they actually care about.
Yeah.
No doubt. Like, have you experienced any of that bias over your career?
Yeah. I've been to events where people who are there to film aren't filming the b-girl section of the event, because they're waiting for the big boys.
So treating it like a placeholder.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Oh, well, b-girls aren't any good, so we won't film them, and we won't make them part of the recap of the event because who cares?
Wow.
And that that erases women on the scene. Because I've been to a lot of events over 20 years experience, and I'm not in very many videos. And I think it could be easy to say, well, we just put the best dancers in. But then I think you also have to, whoever's making recap videos, depends what their intention is. Are they trying to cover it like a journalist, like this is what happened, to document the event? Or is it, I want to push this dancer because they're my favorite, or I want people to see this person because they've not had much exposure. So the videos themselves can end up being biased towards the filmmaker's point of view. And if it's not a woman making the film, then probably there'll be less women or girls in the final edit, if they're filmed at all. It's been, and another common one that I experience is if I'm at an event and I'm standing with a group of guys, and another guy will come over, he'll greet all the b-boys, all the men in the group, and then walk away and not acknowledge me.
Wow.
It's common.
Now being an OG in your scene, I don't know if you guys use that term over there, but being an OG, just meaning like you're one of the more one of the builders. Now you're judging, organizing, things like that, and competing less. As a judge, have you ever been like just oversighted? 'Cause I'm assuming you judge probably quite often now with how long you've been down with hip hop, or excuse me, with the breaking, which is hip hop. But do you think like say for instance, if you judge against someone, right? Do they just, or not even if you judge against someone, but when a b-boy loses or wins or whatever, do they more ask the male judges for feedback and then just kind of, not ask you, or have you seen that they will still come up to you and be like, what can I improve on? Why did I lose? How can I get better? So on and so forth.
I don't know. I don't know how I would compare that, because it usually happens once the judges have dispersed.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're asking other judges more than me or not, but
Right.
But people do ask me for feedback, b-boys and b-girls.
Okay.
So when I started judging, I judged one event and someone asked me for feedback, and I was like, I can't remember your battle. I felt so bad. So since then, I take notes.
Right.
I take detailed notes. I have a little shorthand that I use, so that when people come up and ask me, I'm like, okay, what's your crew name? Okay, that was that battle, and I read my notes so I can tell them. And I try to take notes about what's happening in the battle, but also just overall, what do I think that dancer could improve on if they want that kind of feedback. So yeah, no, I think when I'm judging, it's always fine. I'll tell you another judging story though.
No doubt.
There was one event where I was judging the pre-selection on one day, but I wasn't judging the main battle the next day, and I was treated very differently. And I don't know if that's a gender thing or if that's a judge thing. One day I was important because I was making decisions, and the next day I wasn't. So
right.
The same people who said hi to me, come up and shoot my hand, ignored me the next day.
It sounds like they were playing the political game.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you have some influence over my final destination in this event. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
No doubt. That's cool. Now, do you think that the this treatment from when you came in the game to 2020 has gotten better? Like, has the B-girl become more of a important figure in the culture versus maybe in the 80s or 90s?
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of that's to do with it. There are a lot more of us now. I think what maybe hasn't changed is how much space there is at the top of the scene for b-girls as opposed to b-boys. So I think there needs to be more space made for more women to be at the top of the game. So that I think that is changing a bit now, but it's for a long time it wasn't. It was just very closed. Lots of b-boys can be at the top, but only one b-girl. So I think that's the problem.
That one at a time type thing.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And I think the more women who are in positions of authority, who are visible on the scene, in positions of power, the better for the whole scene. And I think something that I definitely want to see change is that boys and men also accepting women as role models and not just saying, she's a great role model for b-girls. A role model for men and for boys.
Right. No doubt. That's funny. I was going to ask you that. Do you think that your counterparts, us, the b-boys, do we take you guys seriously? Because I guess that would be where the parity would begin, right? Once we started to treat you guys as equals and like stop saying things like, you'd be a great model for another young lady, right? Then that's where we start taking the steps in the right direction. Do you think b-boys take b-girls seriously in the scene?
I think some do. I think some definitely don't. Yeah.
Now, do you think it's because of like that it's a meritocracy to an extent? So like if a b-girl is a high level b-girl, they take her seriously. If you're not one of the top b-girls that's killing the game, then it's just like, oh, that's just a b-girl. You think that's the case?
Yeah, I think that can be the case. But then if your outlook is that b-girls are never going to be as good as b-boys, then you're never going to take them seriously. It's a lot of b-boys get upset when they get beat by a girl still, because they hold that belief that, well, I should beat her just because I'm a guy and she's a girl.
Right. Like, yeah, just off of GP, right? Just like, well, automatically, I see this girl across from me. I'm already thinking about the next round.
Yeah.
in my next opponent, no doubt. And what about, because you're on the professional side of breaking, as far as, like using it as a way to make a living, or at least to supplement. And do you think that, you being a B-girl affects the amount of students you can get, or maybe are you only getting mostly girls, or do you find that a lot of guys will still take instruction from you?
No, yeah, I have had a lot of guys come to my classes. So I think there are some guys the same guys who don't like getting beat by a girl wouldn't want to be taught by a girl. So I'm sure the pool of people who are willing to come to my class is smaller than if I was a b-boy with the same skill level, same level of experience.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine. I want the people who come to my classes to want to come to my classes.
No doubt. Yeah.
But
No
something
doubt.
that I have noticed over the years, not in the scene, but like councils or community centres who want to encourage boys to get into dance will put on a breaking class with a male teacher, because again, it's the whole men can be role models for boys, but women can't.
No
So
doubt.
I think I've lost a lot of work over the years through that dynamic.
Oh, wow. Okay. And we're also in the social media era, right? Mm-hmm. Now, do you think things like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, now, do you think that those have helped or hindered the game, like ultimately?
Well, I think they've helped. There's always downsides to social media, but I think in terms of being aware of dancers that you might never meet in person, but you see online because they post their videos, it gives people more chance to have exposure. Like with all the online battles this year, I've had a lot of people that have never been on the scene before pop up because they can just do it from home, wherever they are, whatever country they're in, as long as they've got a camera and Wi-Fi. So there's no travel costs or accommodation costs involved. So it opens it up to more people. Yeah, I think I watch a lot of the tutorials that are online. I like watching a tutorial. I really enjoy going to workshops and learning from other people, and seeing other people's tutorials kind of keeps me inspired, and I like watching how other people teach. Maybe I get ideas from that to
No doubt
incorporate into my own practice. So I think that's a way to bring the community together and keep that each one teach one spirit going.
No doubt.
We can't meet in person. I think, well, going back to the sexism things, I think there are a lot of b-girls who, when they post something, the kind of comments they'll get will be, "Oh, you're beautiful, marry me, so sexy."
Oh, the bull crap. Yeah, no doubt.
Never commenting on their dancing skills.
Right. Which is, that's hilarious. To a point that you made about the online battles, do you think that there's going to be a space for those post-pandemic? Or do you think those will just go to the wayside and we just get back to the face-to-face?
I don't know. Maybe it depends, how long this lasts, or because if it keeps going, people might get better at doing online battles, learn more tricks, get more savvy with it. So it could be something that continues. But yeah, it depends if the world opens up again and how much it does or doesn't. Because maybe people will be able to travel in their own country but won't be able to leave their country, or not every country will be able to travel to that country. So yeah, it depends what.
That might be the new look of the international battle.
Yeah, it could be, or maybe that will be the way that people do their pre-selection to choose their top. That would cut down on the long event times.
Send in your video. We'll pick the top 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then who knows?
No doubt. Now we've been talking about technology and how it's pushing the culture. You actually use this to your advantage because you have an online school yourself. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So at the start of lockdown, I'm in a group chat with my crew, Flexible Flav, and we started sending each other tutorials just to keep ourselves occupied at the start of lockdown and learn from each other's different skill sets. And after a while, I started putting my tutorials on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, I was doing a different one every day. I've kind of run out of steam at the moment. I'm having a little break from it, but planning on getting back to it soon. But yeah, those tutorials they got a really good response. I got a lot of good feedback from them. So after a couple of months of doing that, I thought I'll start a Zoom class,
Mm-hmm.
see if anyone wants to come in and learn live instead of from a recorded sessions.
Right.
So I've been doing that since May, on a Tuesday and a Thursday, to make up for different time zones, because I've got people from different countries. So I had to find out what's the best time of day for me and for you to make this happen.
No doubt.
It's been really great. I feel like we've got a little community going in the Zoom group.
No doubt.
It's nice. Yeah, we've been doing focusing a lot on form, so footwork form in your sweeps and your back rock, and creativity. So some weeks we'll just take like a CC, and I'll be like, okay, what's going to happen if you put your hand in a place where you wouldn't normally put your hand? If you cross over, or if you reach behind you, or if you keep one foot off the floor, all these different creative tasks, just to see if we can make something new out of something that we already know. So I think that's the easiest way to start creating something new, is to start from what you know and then branch out with it. And everyone who comes is really on board with that kind of class. So it's been a lot of fun, and we've come up with a lot of new moves over it. So I'm enjoying it.
No doubt. I noticed you said you're in Flex Flav. How long have you been down with Flexible Flav?
Well, I met Abe in 2012. I joined the crew 2 or 3 years ago. Can't really remember. Yeah, so we've got a lot of European members as well as stateside. So Scotland, Italy, Germany, Poland, Spain. So yeah, it's cool. So usually we'll see each other, 2 or 3 times a year. We'll travel to Italy or to Germany, or they'll come here for events or just for training and hanging out. So even though we're all far apart, we managed to stay in touch and train together quite a lot.
That's good. So Flex Flav worldwide, huh?
Yeah.
That's dope. Now, you also have a solo show that you do, right? Mm-hmm. So what is that about?
So my show, it's about coercive control, which is domestic abuse. So Women's Aid, which is a support organisation for abused women here in the UK, they define it as a pattern of acts of assault, threats, humiliation and intimidation, or other abuse that's used to harm, punish or frighten their victim.
Wow.
So I learned about this through listening to a podcast called Real Crime Profile. So they were talking a lot about coercive control. And I decided to make a show about it to raise awareness, because I think so a lot of people haven't heard that term before, don't know what it's all about. But last year it came into the law in Scotland, so now it's a criminal offence. So yeah, my show want to raise awareness and help people understand what coercive control is, how it feels if that's happening to you. So it's all from the point of view of the victim. It's a solo. So the abuser isn't present, but their presence is always felt you can see the effect it's having on the victim.
Right.
So I've done the first development phase, and I was just about to apply for funding to do the next phase and plan a tour, but then COVID hit. So then
the world fell apart.
So now back onto thinking about it and how I can proceed from here. But I want to go back, and at the moment I've got a 13-minute piece, and I want to extend it to half an hour, and then when possible I want to tour it to schools and universities, conferences about domestic abuse, and have a domestic abuse advocate with me to lead a discussion with the audience afterwards to get people's thoughts on the show and what they thought coercive control was before, and how their understanding might have changed, and then the advocate can explain the tactics an abuser uses and the red flags that you can look out for.
Right. Now, what made you really want to be a part of this? Is it, just just a cause you believe in, or is this something that you've seen in your 20 plus years in the breaking community, and you're like, we need to speak to this?
Well, I think it's not just for the breaking community; it's for the wider community.
Well, no doubt,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Something I feel strongly about. My mum was a founder of Women's Aid organisation, so in Scotland, in Kilmarnock and Glasgow. And I just think, it affects so many women. I think this year, since in the UK, 88 women have been murdered by their partner or ex-partner so far. So it's a huge issue, and the numbers are even higher in the States. I think it's 3 women a week are murdered. And coercive control has a huge part to play in that. So it's an important issue that we should all know about. No
doubt. So I guess here we have a debate going on. It's if you're involved with sports, right, or you tune into sports at all, there's a debate. It seems that the WNBA is hell bent that there's a pay disparity. And they feel that the female basketball players should get paid on par with the male basketball players, based on, I think they're just basically basing it on gender. What do you agree with that, or do you think that is a totally different fight? That
it's all related. It's all related.
No doubt.
I don't know anything about sport, but I think. Definitely, I've seen breaking battles where the prize for the b-boys has been much larger than it is for the bgirls.
Right.
That's not fair.
Okay. And to speak to that, like I've talked with Rock Lobster before, and I asked him like how he felt, because sometimes these will be invite battles, right? They're invite battles, and the prize will be lower. And they say, well, because there's less b-girls or so on and so forth. But in my mind, if I invite 10 of you to put on a show, and I invite 10 b-boys to put on a show, then the numbers aren't lower. The numbers are the same. There's 10 of us, there's 10 of them. Why is the prize lower? Right?
Because women aren't valued as highly as men.
Well, she said, I'm going to keep it plain and simple. Yeah.
So, I mean, I presume the arguments for sport is that not as many people watch women's sport.
Right.
But women's sport isn't marketed the way men's sport is. It's not on TV as much, so it's impossible to have such a big audience.
Right.
So I think for every reason there's going to be a counter argument, and
right.
Yeah.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Sure.
Okay. So
Bonner. Here comes Lloyd. Howard looked like she got away with an illegal screen on Turner. Howard finishes it though.
The floor for Maya. Hayes thought about it. Dribbles in to trap it.
Bonner, plenty of room in front of her. Goes around the other side. Shot's not falling. Mercury is 1 for 8.
We're talking about, the marketing and so on and so forth. Let's say that it's a butts in the seats issue, right? So then what if somebody said, well, if women want to make more money, then why don't more women go to the WNBA game? Or why don't more b-girls go to the b-girl competition, or just females go to support the b-girl competitions? Because then it would be undeniable, right? If the b-girl competition is pulling in $10,000 in revenue and the b-boy competition is pulling in $10,000 of revenue, then is that a fair argument, or do you think?
No. Why does it only have to be women who are watching the women? Why don't you say just get more bums on seats in general?
Or why don't you empower yourself and don't need them and do it yourself?
How, Sway?
Take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway.
Kanye.
I've been doing this more than you.
I mean, I think equal pay for equal work.
No doubt.
Women, we'll talk about b-girls again. We train, we sacrifice. we get injuries. You know, we go through all the same things that b-boys do. I mean, then you should say, well, the person who trains the most, puts in the most work, should get paid more.
Okay.
Even if someone who doesn't train as much is more talented in the b-boy world. That's like the equivalent.
No doubt.
So
Okay.
are you basing it off talent or sex or effort or competencies? You know, it's lots of different arguments. They're very complex.
Right. It's multi-level, right?
Yeah.
No doubt. But yeah, one of the last things I wanted to ask you was so in the information age, right? And social media and like how do we use that to our advantage? How do we use that to grow and progress the culture?
I think how could we use it? Well, we can use it in lots of different ways. I think people are already using it for their footage of themselves to get their name out there, for online battles. I've been to quite a few Zoom discussions about racism and sexual harassment in the scene. And I think more of that kind of thing, more, well, I think that there were a lot of Instagram lives going on at the start of lockdown, but that's kind of faded away. But that kind of discussion panel, you know, talking about the history, people telling stories about their, people telling stories about their experience. But I think what we need is maybe more business training. Or more opportunities for people to be mentored and learn how to organize a battle, you know, how to get a venue, how to liaise with all the artists, or know how to get paid, how much money to ask for when you're booked for a job. Contracts is a thing that we don't really have a lot of in the scene, even though we're doing a lot of international travel. And there are always stories about people getting stung by either someone not turning up, missing their flight, or someone doing the job and not being paid. So I think, that kind of organized, structured business side of things is a lack at the moment.
Do you think that lack of business is why breaking isn't on the, let's say the the monetary level of like skateboarding? Do you think it's because of this lack of business model, or maybe it's a lack of wanting it to go there, or what do you think?
There's definitely a split in the scene, isn't there, of people who want it to go there and people who don't want it to go there. So that's definitely an internal debate that's been going on. I don't really know. I mean, breaking is hard. So when people come to learn, they're like, "Oh, this is really hard.
Yeah,
it looks cool, but I don't know if I want to put myself through all that to learn it."
Right.
So you really have to love it to do it, because it hurts and it's a lot of work, a lot of time, and not a lot of money. And yeah, it looks cool, but I think even as a breaker, when you go to events and they run long, it gets boring.
Right.
So I think maybe we need to, if we were to go bigger in the mainstream, it'd have to be packaging the exciting parts, which then means it's probably going to be the power moves and the tricks, which takes away from the foundation. It's kind of a loop. This, if we want to get there, then we have to lose something.
Yeah, like with it going to the Olympics, right? With it going to the Olympics, it's also going to have Olympic rules. And one of those rules is about like the burns, right? Your burns can't be too violent or too, sexual, I guess, like with when people do the cacking and all that stuff, like it can't be too much of that. And like you said, I think that, that's going to cause it to be at a loss to some extent, right? Because now it's like, well, I usually do this, but now I can't do this, and so on and so forth. What I was going to ask you though is going back to, man, I done lost my train of thought now. But like, do you think that is a good a good way to take it? I mean, oh no, this is what I was going to ask you. What side do you fall on? Do you fall on the we need to progress and make this a full-on sport, or do we need to not progress and leave it as a more underground culture? Because you were talking about, it being hard and, it hurts, but skateboarding is hard. Skateboarding hurts. It can hurt a lot more, but you can be a millionaire teenager if you're good enough, but if you're the best breaker in the world, it doesn't seem like there's, well, not even that it doesn't seem, it's clearly not on the same, corporate level as a skateboard. What do you think has held us back from reaching those heights? Because what we do is just as, if not more flashy, right, than skateboarding. It has to be. It's on par at least, right? Like you said, the point of entry is just as difficult. It's almost the same. It's a similar kind of person that does skateboarding and breaking, kind of like that balls to the wall attitude. You know what I'm saying? But what has held us back?
I think, breaking was created out of nothing, right? For the people who created it, because they needed it. And I think that spirit has stayed with it. So do you want to do it for yourself and for the culture, for our community, or do you want to do it to make money and for a bigger audience? I think that's a big, it depends what your motivation is. So I think, at one point, I met a lot of younger breakers who all they wanted to do was win Red Bull BC One, but for recognition, not really for money. So I think, because that was the biggest thing at the time. I don't think breaking should be a sport. It didn't start as a sport. How can you take something that's so established and change the fundamentals of what it is? I think I don't agree. It's a dance form. It's an art form. It's part of a bigger culture. It's tied into hip hop. If you just take it away and make it sport, it's not the same thing anymore. For me, it's here. For me, it's an art form. It's a dance form, part of hip hop culture, and that's where I would like it to stay. I think maybe there's going to be a split. The commercial side might get bigger, and the underground scene will stay and do whatever it wants to do. But also with the commercial side, so that would prevent me from maybe having a big sponsor in some respects. I'd be like, well, I'm not doing that because that doesn't tie in with my values that tie in with hip hop culture, the values of hip hop culture. So maybe, I hold myself back in some kind of ways because of that. But
right.
I'm happy with my values. I'm happy to stay where I am on that respect. I think theatre is a way where we could expand, although theatres are in big trouble now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think for me, teaching is like usually the constant source of income when I'm doing that, and then gigs and shows. But yeah, I'm more into I'm more into the community and teaching and learning and growing with people.
More into the art of it than the sport of it.
Yeah.
No doubt. Now, all right, so I don't know how much you guys keep up with American politics, and this show is not about politics as far as we talk about social issues, but we don't necessarily get into party politics. But I got to know, are people in Scotland aware of the political climate in the United States?
Yeah.
So by the time this comes out, we will have either a new president or a president with a new term. So who you think is going to win, Biden or Trump?
Well, I hope Biden.
Why is that?
Oh, I think over the past 4 years, America has changed so much. And I think seeing the pictures of the White House being all boarded up and all the businesses being all boarded up during an election is frightening. And what happens in America affects the rest of the world. So a less frightening America would be a less frightening world.
Oh, that's cool. I like the way you put that. Well, last thing. I know I keep saying last thing. You're like, you're like, in America, last thing must mean next thing. But so I remember earlier you talked about, we were talking about sexism, but you also said something about racism. Now, your country is mostly white, right? But is there like an element of racism towards whatever minority groups that you guys have as far as like your scene? Like, because again,
in the scene.
Yeah, going back to the Rock Lobster interview, he talked about,
within breaking, there's this unfortunate sort of hierarchy in how like the people within the community navigate, and the higher you are, the more you can get away with, the same way in society, the same way in life. So with these people, it's unfortunate because like there are a lot of people in these higher positions that display anti-blackness, that are almost openly racist.
He's seen and witnessed anti-black racism even in a art form that was created by black people. Like, do you guys, I don't know what the numbers for your black population is, but is there that same element where you're from, or is it because the numbers are so low that it doesn't really affect anything?
Well, in Scotland, yeah, I've never seen anything or noticed anything. But then maybe I'm just oblivious to it because I'm white and I haven't seen it happening. So yeah, in Scotland, and I think again because the scene is so small and everyone knows each other personally, there isn't that room for the well, I don't know you, so I'm just going to be racist because I can get away with it kind of thing. So if there is, maybe it's hidden from me at least.
Okay. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Emma Reddy, Flexible Flav crew, Scotland in the house. Emma, if we want to get in touch with you as far as taking a class or viewing your, recordings of your show, how do we do that?
I'm on Instagram at Emma Reddy, and my website is emmareddy.one. ONE. So you can sign up for my workshops on my website, and the link to that is on my Instagram bio. All my tutorials are on Instagram, and blogs and videos regarding my show are on my website.
No doubt. And we really appreciate you coming on the show. I really wanted to get this interview. I woke up at 5 a.m, which isn't that different from me, but I woke up at 5 a.m. to make sure I can get on and at a comfortable time for you. If you're ever in the States and I'm around Sacramento, because that's probably where you would be around, I'll definitely, love to meet you in person.
Yeah.
And say what's up. And again, we appreciate you beyond the Cypher. Word.
know why you abandoned me. You were my soul and my partner. What we imagined and what we became, we'll keep them separate and you keep your name. You keep your name. You keep your name. You keep your separate and you keep your